Have you ever seen these labels before? I'm sure you guys are familiar with these different kinds of labels on the food that you go and buy when you're at the grocery store. There's so many kinds and varieties now of labels that it's difficult to know what they all mean, to keep track of what it means you're getting as a consumer or as a shopper at the grocery store. And it's also something that can make the nutrition labels confusing too when you're reading the nutrition label. Um, as a consumer, most of the time, we and most of us have been raised to read the nutrition facts that are on our food, and we're supposed to rely on that to teach us what each of the different vocabulary words on there means. So as you can see on here, there's things like calories, total fats, and it breaks down the fats into the categories. There's cholesterol, sodium, sugars, protein, and then different vitamins and minerals depending on the food you're buying. But these labels can often be confusing for us if we don't know what exactly we're reading. And something that's hard to understand about these labels, along with the other ones like the organic, the grass fed, sugar free, non GMO labels, is it improving our nutrition and our quality of life when we're buying it, or is it something that's used for marketing and that's helping food industries like manufacturers or the businesses that own them and produce them? Is it helping them more than it's helping us? And so why we're here today is because we want to be able to understand what it is we're buying and also be educated consumers so that when we go to the grocery store, we know, oh, that's what the organic label means, that's what a non GMO means, and it's also important to know when it matters. So not only will you walk away feeling more empowered to know what they mean because you're educated a little bit at least. Um, it's also going to help you to feel confident when you go to the grocery store and you're buying these things. And we're also going to talk about how you can apply the knowledge that you learned today. And so understanding leads to us making healthier decisions too. If that's something that we're working towards, if that's a goal. I know personally that's a goal of mine is I want to eat better and I want the food I'm eating to be better quality because that means it'll help my body more and be more nutritious and healing. So, the FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration in the United States, is an organization that was created to protect and promote our health as consumers. So they're responsible for the foods that are sold in the United States and to make sure that they're safe, wholesome, and that they're properly labeled. So it's their job to ensure that we're getting food and that it's labeled properly. It also, part of their other job duty or their description is that they also require um, all foods that are sold in the US to require this nutrition labeling or for it to be available to us. And they're trying to also help minimize the legal action for food manufacturers that's taken against them. For example, a lawsuit against McDonald's, they're trying to minimize that. And not just for big companies like McDonald's, this is required from any business that buys or distributes food to the public. The reason I bring that up, and there's also the USDA, which is another organization, is because this labeling guide has kind of turned into a code for manufacturers. So an example of that is USDA organic. When you think organic, do you know what that means? Does that mean your food was raised on a farm? Does it mean your crops have chemicals? Does it mean that they're not genetically modified if they're accompanied without the non-GMO label? So it's a lot of things to consider, and that's why I kind of think it's turned into a code, and that's one of the things that I'm going to talk about. And one of the first examples that I'm thinking of right now is whenever you go to the grocery store and you buy, you can see it on a lot of like cereals sometimes, on granola bars, Anything that would have like a wheat or corn product on it, it might have the USDA organic label, and it also might have the non-GMO label. And what that means is that your corn crops or the wheat crops that are in the product, so if your product has any trace of corn or has any trace of wheat, it means that those crops, they weren't sprayed with glyphosate. And glyphosate is a known hormone disruptor, and it's a pesticide that they use in farming or in food manufacturing. So it just helps the crops to be able to grow and not have as much damage to them done. So it minimizes the loss for the food manufacturers in farming efforts. Non-GMO, so that means non-genetically modified organism. An example of a genetically modified organism would be watermelons. So you have seedless watermelons and you have the just regular watermelons that will still have seeds. So most people prefer to eat their watermelon with no seeds because it can get annoying to bite and have to like spit out seeds when you're eating watermelon. So it really depends on what you're looking for as a consumer. It depends on, are you looking for the best price in your groceries? Are you like, so you're budget friendly, you want budget friendly items? Are you looking for high quality ingredients? So are you looking at the nutrition label and are you reading all of the ingredients on there to see and to understand, is this more whole food or is it more chemical? Sugar free, that's another good example, is when you buy diet soda versus regular soda. Regular soda is often sourced from a whole food source of sugar, so like it could be a cane crop is the most common kind, and the diet soda will often contain an artificial sugar. The artificial sugar is technically lower on the glycemic index, so that's better for diabetics, and that just helps them to be able to track the sugar for their insulin needs. But if you're not diabetic, are you okay with a chemical sugar, or do you want to be consuming a soda that is from a more whole food source? Not that soda is necessarily the best for you, but that's just an example that we're all familiar with. So then it also is kind of addressing, are you an emotional buyer or are you an educated and informed buyer? And that's really, from a marketing standpoint, why I feel like the FDA's labeling guide has turned into a language of code for different companies. So these labels, they're gonna make you wonder, marketing versus nutrition purposes. Are you paying attention to what kind of decisions you're making at the grocery store? And what are you shopping for as a consumer? Again, are you shopping for a budget-friendly item or are you shopping for something that's healthier and more whole food sourced? When you go to the grocery store, are you paying attention to the price, to the calories, to the ingredients, to the brand names? So what is the coding that I'm referring to? An example from the FDA labeling guide is in their section when it comes to labeling calories on products. They label the calories by serving size. So they'll often put the size of the serving. For example, in this image, you're going to see that a serving size is 2/3 of a cup, and per 2/3 of a cup, you're eating or consuming 230 calories. The average consumer, so people like you and me, we're often not measuring 2/3 of a cup when we're pouring our cereal or anything. We're the ones that are probably just dumping it in a bowl, probably like a cup or two. So then you have to do the math. 230 times 2, for example, that's going to easily put you at 460 calories. But the funny thing is that a product, let's say that it's less than 5 calories per serving, the FDA has said that it's okay for companies to label that product as 0 calories. And where that's alarming to me and you is if someone's diabetic or doing it for health purposes or just a better diet for nutrition purposes, that's going to severely throw off their progress and the health benefits that they're seeing, because it could really make an impact if they're not consuming the exact serving size. to how much they're eating. So as a consumer, I want you to know that this is why it's important to kind of learn these things little by little. And you can follow Instagram accounts. There are people that are starting to post about this more and take you literally to the grocery store with them. Like, look, this is something that you could look for. This is something that is worth investing a little more into the organic option versus where are things that aren't that important.